The mahogany-paneled law office felt suffocating as Mr. Peterson, the family attorney, read through Grandpa Harrison's will. My cousins sat smugly in their expensive suits and designer dresses, while I fidgeted in my off-the-rack clothes, feeling like the family disappointment they had always said I was. To my grandchildren, Mr. Peterson droned, I leave the following. To James, my investment portfolio valued at $8 million. James smirked, adjusting his Rolex. To Catherine, my Hampton estate and art collection. My cousin smoothed her silk dress and shot me a superior look. To Michael, my controlling interest in Harrison Industries. Another cousin, another self-satisfied smile. And to Emma, Mr. Peterson paused slightly, his lips curling, I leave my storage unit at Safe and Lock Storage, Unit 23B, along with its contents. The room erupted in poorly concealed laughter. Cousin James didn't even bother hiding his amusement. A storage unit, he sneered. Perfect for the family charity case. Maybe you can live in it, Emma, since you can't afford a real apartment. I stayed quiet, remembering the last conversation I'd had with Grandpa before he passed, his cryptic comments about appearances and seeing beneath the surface, the way he'd squeeze my hand when he mentioned his storage unit. The unit must be claimed within 24 hours, Mr. Peterson added, or it reverts to the estate. Better hurry, Catherine laughed. Wouldn't want to miss out on Grandpa's old golf clubs and tax records. I had already stood, grabbing my worn messenger bag. Thank you, Mr. Peterson. I'll claim it now. The drive to Safe and Lock Storage was quick, though my cousin's laughter still echoed in my ears. The facility was old and industrial, exactly the kind of place the wealthy Harrison family would never be caught dead visiting, perfect for hiding secrets. Unit 23B's door was rusty, the lock ancient. My hand trembled slightly as I slid in the key Mr. Peterson had given me. The door creaked open, revealing darkness. I fumbled for my phone's flashlight, and in that narrow beam of light I saw what Grandpa had really left me. Oh, I whispered as understanding washed over me. So this is where you hid the real family billions. At first glance, the storage unit looked ordinary. Stacked boxes, old furniture, dusty filing cabinets. Then my light caught something that made my heart skip, a state-of-the-art retinal scanner cleverly disguised as a broken light fixture. Grandpa's last words came back to me. Emma, my dear, you're the only one who ever asked why I kept old paperwork instead of digitizing everything, the only one who noticed the patterns. Standing on tiptoe, I positioned my eye near the scanner. A soft blue glow pulsed, and the back wall slid silently aside, revealing a gleaming steel vault door with a digital keypad. On a nearby shelf sat a single envelope with my name on it. Dearest Emma, Grandpa's letter began, his familiar handwriting bringing tears to my eyes. If you're reading this, you've already proven yourself smarter than the rest of them. The code is the date you showed me your first investment algorithm, the one your cousins mocked at family dinner. I smiled, remembering that disastrous Thanksgiving. While James bragged about his Harvard MBA, I tried to explain how my program could predict market trends. They'd laughed me out of the room, but Grandpa had pulled me aside later, asking questions and actually listening. With trembling fingers, I entered the date, 11/24/2019. The vault door opened with a soft hiss, revealing a space that made James's portfolio look like pocket change. Servers hummed along one wall, the hidden heart of what I now realized was Grandpa's true empire. Screens displayed real-time data from markets around the world. A quantum computer sat in one corner, its processing power likely greater than all of Harrison Industries systems combined. My dear girl, the letter continued, while they fought over who would inherit the visible fortune, you were the only one who understood. Real wealth in the modern age is digital, invisible, and built on information. I sank into the ergonomic chair waiting for me, staring at cryptocurrency wallets, algorithmic trading systems, and digital asset portfolios scrolling endlessly across the screens. The legitimate Harrison fortune they're dividing, the letter went on, is a drop in the ocean. This is my true legacy, the digital empire I built in secret, the one that controls Harrison Industries through shell companies and proxy servers, the one that owns the banks holding their inheritances. My hands shook as I watched the numbers flow, billions upon billions in digital assets, each screen revealing another facet of a fortune my cousins could never imagine. And now it's yours, Grandpa concluded. Because you understood what they never did. That in today's world, true power doesn't come from what you can show off. It comes from what you can hide in plain sight. A notification flashed across one screen. James's inheritance transfer flagged by the system. The account holding his $8 million had been quietly emptied minutes before the will reading. I couldn't help but smile. Grandpa's final lesson in humility was about to begin. The next hour inside the storage unit was a crash course in how deep Grandpa's digital empire truly ran. Each screen revealed another layer, each server another piece of his master plan. Protocol activation required flashed across the main display. Biometric authentication in progress. I placed my hand on the scanner, watching decades of careful planning unfold. Somewhere across town my cousins were probably still celebrating. Identity confirmed. Welcome, Emma Harrison. Initiating Operation Legacy. Screens lit up simultaneously, exposing the full scope of Grandpa's holdings. Harrison Industries wasn't just a subsidiary, it was a puppet dancing on digital strings that led back to this hidden command center. Jesus, Grandpa, I whispered as data streamed endlessly. You built a shadow empire. Another letter slid from a hidden compartment, sealed with the Harrison family crest. My dearest Emma, it read. By now you've seen the surface, but there's more, so much more. As I read, alerts flooded the screens. James's attempts to access his inheritance were blocked one by one. Catherine's art collection transfer stalled without explanation. Michael's shares in Harrison Industries were recalled due to sudden administrative errors. While they fight over the scraps, Grandpa's words continued, I built something they could never understand. Every major financial institution, every significant market move, every technological advancement, we were there, invisible but essential. A secure phone line activated automatically. M. Harrison, a crisp voice said, This is Citadel Securities. We're noting unusual activity in Harrison Holdings and are awaiting your instructions. My fingers moved rapidly across the keyboards, initiating protocols that had clearly been waiting for this exact moment. Execute Operation Clean Slate, I ordered, recalling the coded phrases Grandpa had taught me during what had once seemed like casual conversations about cryptocurrency. Confirmed. Implementing now. Across the screens, I watched as the visible Harrison fortune, the one my cousins believed they were inheriting, began to dissolve, not destroyed but reshaped, flowing through encrypted digital pathways into accounts and systems only I could now reach. They never asked the right questions, Grandpa's letter continued. They never wondered why I spent so much time with my so-called disappointing granddaughter who wasted her life on computers. They never noticed that while they were learning how to spend money, I was teaching you how to make it disappear. A message flashed from Mr. Peterson's office. Urgent calls from James, Catherine, and Michael. All of their inheritance transfers had failed at the same time. Your cousins will be angry, the letter acknowledged. They'll feel cheated and betrayed. Let them. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the most necessary. I leaned back in the chair, watching billions in assets glide silently through the digital ecosystem Grandpa had engineered. Every transaction was legal, meticulously documented, and utterly irreversible. But why me? I asked the empty unit, my voice echoing against servers that controlled more wealth than I could fully grasp. As if in response, another hidden compartment opened, revealing a final letter and a small gold key. The key you're holding, Grandpa's last letter explained, opens a safety deposit box at Zurich International. Inside is the true story of how I built all of this, and more importantly, the proof of why you were always meant to inherit it. My phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from family members grew increasingly frantic as their financial worlds unraveled. Account frozen. Contact administrator. Transfer denied. Funds unavailable. Share authentication failed. I turned back to the letter, ignoring their digital panic. You see, Emma, while they were learning to play golf at the country club, you were teaching yourself quantum computing. While they boasted about trust funds, you were building algorithms that could predict market shifts. While they attended charity galas, you were quietly mining cryptocurrency before anyone even knew what it was. Another screen illuminated, displaying a familiar block of code. My first trading algorithm, the one I had shown Grandpa years ago. Only now I could see his handwritten annotations layered throughout it, notes proving he hadn't just understood my work, but had secretly deployed it across his hidden empire. That Thanksgiving, when they laughed at your program, the letter went on, I went home and restructured half my holdings based on your insights. I made $3 billion in the first week. That's when I knew you were ready. The quantum computer hummed more intensely, processing data streams that would make Wall Street's most advanced systems look primitive. But the real test wasn't your intelligence, Grandpa wrote. It was your heart. I've been watching. When James had lost half his trust fund on that reckless venture, who had anonymously rescued him, I felt my cheeks warm as I remembered the intricate web of transactions I'd used to save him from his own arrogance while making it appear like nothing more than fortunate market timing. When Catherine's art gallery was failing, who had created the mysterious online buyers that kept her afloat? When Michael's position at Harrison Industries was threatened, who had quietly encrypted the evidence of his mistakes? The screens displayed records of every intervention, all the ways I had protected my family in secret while they mocked my useless computer skills. You protected them, Emma, the letter said. Not for praise or recognition, but because it was the right thing to do. That's why you're sitting in that chair now. Not just because you understand the technology, but because you understand responsibility. A new alert appeared. Mr. Peterson was requesting an urgent meeting with all beneficiaries. Apparently, the family attorney was beginning to grasp just how thoroughly Grandpa had rebuilt the Harrison fortune. The empire is yours now, the letter concluded. But remember, true power isn't about making others feel small. It's about lifting them up while keeping your own strength hidden. I sat quietly as the global financial system continued its invisible dance across my screens, in law offices and bank towers throughout the city. My cousins were discovering that their inheritances had vanished like morning mist, but unlike them, I understood what Grandpa had truly left us all, a lesson about the real nature of wealth and power in the digital age. The afternoon sun cast long shadows through the hidden command center of the storage unit as I prepared for the confrontation I knew was coming. My cousins' increasingly desperate messages had reached a fever pitch, and Mr. Peterson had scheduled an emergency family meeting for 5 o'clock. Ms. Harrison, the AI assistant Grandpa had embedded in the system, said, its voice eerily similar to his, your cousins have arrived at the storage facility. Security cameras show elevated agitation levels. I could hear their luxury cars pulling up outside, doors slamming in rhythm with their fury. Through the security feeds, I watched James pacing in his Italian leather shoes, Catherine clutching now worthless inheritance documents, and Michael shouting into his phone as his lawyer spoke on speaker. Emma! James's voice thundered through the facility. We know you're in there. I drew a slow breath and activated the unit's advanced security systems, another of Grandpa's carefully hidden safeguards. The outer door might have looked like rusted steel, but it could withstand a small explosion. Initialize protocol revelation, I instructed. The screens shifted, displaying the meticulously prepared documentation Grandpa had assembled over decades. You can't hide in there forever, Catherine's voice followed, tight with panic. The banks say all our accounts are frozen. I smiled faintly, watching their inheritances transform before my eyes, each asset being systematically converted into digital form and routed through encrypted channels into the new structure Grandpa had designed. Legal team standing by, the AI reported. All transactions documented and verified. Shall I begin the presentation? Not yet, I replied, opening another of Grandpa's letters, this one marked for the moment of truth. My dearest Emma, it began. If you're reading this, you're standing exactly where I always knew you would. They had discovered the first part of their lesson. Now came the harder one, teaching them what real wealth meant in this new world. The storage unit's hidden door systems hummed softly as my cousins approached, and just as Grandpa had planned, they would find. The outer door unlocked. Remember, Grandpa's letter continued, power isn't about making others feel powerless. It's about showing them a better way to be powerful. I rose from the command chair, straightening my simple blazer as the door began to slide open. It was time to show my family what their grandfather had truly built, and why he had chosen his so-called disappointing granddaughter to inherit it all. Welcome to the real Harrison Empire, I said as they rushed inside, their anger instantly giving way to shock when they saw the technological wonder concealed behind the storage unit's unremarkable exterior. Shall we talk about your inheritance? Their expressions shifted rapidly, anger to confusion, confusion to disbelief, and finally to dawning understanding as they absorbed the rows of servers, quantum computers, and live financial displays surrounding them. What is all this? Michael stammered, clutching his now meaningless Harrison Industries shares. This, I said, gesturing to the command center, is where Grandpa truly ran everything. The assets you thought you were inheriting were just the surface. The real Harrison fortune exists here in the digital world. But my investment portfolio, James began, was a test. I finished calmly, and one you all failed. While you were boasting about millions, Grandpa was quietly building billions through digital assets, cryptocurrency, and algorithmic trading systems. Catherine collapsed into a nearby chair, her designer dress creasing as she stared at the screens. The art collection, I explained, pulling up the data, is now part of a blockchain-verified digital asset portfolio worth far more than the physical paintings ever were. At that moment, the AI assistant spoke. Miss Harrison, transfer of all legacy assets is complete. The Harrison digital empire is now fully operational. My cousins flinched at the sound of Grandpa's familiar voice coming from the system. He left us nothing, Michael whispered. No, I corrected gently, recalling Grandpa's belief in teaching rather than punishing. He left you something more valuable than money. He left you a lesson about the future, and a chance to be part of it, if you're willing to learn. I pressed a button, and 3 folders slid out from a concealed compartment, each holding an invitation to join the real Harrison empire, not as entitled heirs, but as students of a new way of creating wealth. The choice is yours, I said, offering them a path to redemption. You can keep fighting over what you thought you deserved, or you can learn what Grandpa really built and why he hid it in a storage unit that only his disappointing granddaughter ever thought to open. The outer door unlocked. Remember, Grandpa's letter continued, power isn't about making others feel powerless, it's about showing them a better way to be powerful. I rose from the command chair, straightening my simple blazer as the door began to slide open. It was time to show my family what their grandfather had truly built, and why he had chosen his so-called disappointing granddaughter to inherit it all. Welcome to the real Harrison empire, I said as they rushed inside, their anger instantly giving way to shock when they saw the technological wonder concealed behind the storage unit's unremarkable exterior. Shall we talk about your inheritance? Their expressions shifted rapidly, anger to confusion, confusion to disbelief, and finally to dawning understanding as they absorbed the rows of servers, quantum computers, and live financial displays surrounding them. What is all this? Michael stammered, clutching his now meaningless Harrison Industries shares. This, I said, gesturing to the command center, is where Grandpa truly ran everything. The assets you thought you were inheriting were just the surface. The real Harrison fortune exists here in the digital world. But my investment portfolio, James began, was a test. I finished calmly, and one you all failed. While you were boasting about millions, Grandpa was quietly building billions through digital assets, cryptocurrency, and algorithmic trading systems. Catherine collapsed into a nearby chair, her designer dress creasing as she stared at the screens. The art collection, I explained, pulling up the data, is now part of a blockchain-verified digital asset portfolio worth far more than the physical paintings ever were. At that moment, the AI assistant spoke. Miss Harrison, transfer of all legacy assets is complete. The Harrison digital empire is now fully operational. My cousins flinched at the sound of Grandpa's familiar voice coming from the system. He left us nothing, Michael whispered. No, I corrected gently, recalling Grandpa's belief in teaching rather than punishing. He left you something more valuable than money. He left you a lesson about the future, and a chance to be part of it, if you're willing to learn. I pressed a button, and 3 folders slid out from a concealed compartment, each holding an invitation to join the real Harrison empire, not as entitled heirs, but as students of a new way of creating wealth. The choice is yours, I said, offering them a path to redemption. You can keep fighting over what you thought you deserved, or you can learn what Grandpa really built and why he hid it in a storage unit that only his disappointing granddaughter ever thought to open.